When people think of African art, they buy people in the marketplace with a village with dogs, people cooking. The world has moved on and there are amazing things happening. The artworks which are in the exhibition, there isn't any of them which could be recognized as necessarily African.
African artists were given a platform to display their work at an exhibition hosted at the Africa Centre in January.
It's a movement towards African artists becoming more internationally known without losing their roots.
There's almost kind of this Anglo-African sort of bridge coming together. Everything you see in here is always painted from the impetus of wanting to paint rather than I must paint. Because on one hand, you have dialogue where people want to put you in a box. On the other hand, you have people that don't necessarily want to, because they are free to explore what each artist has to say.
It reminds me of my childhood when we used to have what then used to be called the Fulanis, right? I'm from Ghana, and they used to dress up in that sort of costume. You know? So I have some sort of affinity with men and horses, you see.
Passionate artists are using their work to challenge stereotypes and to reflect Africa's diverse culture.
There was a kind of expectation that they had to represent the place that they came from, not appropriate from a range of sources. African art, particularly the contemporary art scene, which in many ways is reflecting the dynamism, vibrancy of London, but it's also bringing elements from Africa and mixing them up in lots of interesting ways.
I work in metal, and I enjoy working with metal, and I understand that that isn't the automatic thing when people think of African contemporary art.
Not content with just contributing towards exhibitions, works by African artists can also be seen on the streets of London.
The work All the World Is Now Richer was shown in St. Paul's. I love it. I want more of my work to be part of the city.
Sakari's work draws influence from her African roots and infuses this with British culture.
I made a piece which is called The Cross We Bear, which also had the Union Jack. But this is a more positive one about the Union Jack. And the thing is that I love the fact that you can look at Denise Lewis, but you know, you can see that she's British, especially when she has the flag like Superwoman on her. But you want to ask the question, where are you from? So it's the extra layer that makes you British that is interesting, especially if you're a person of colour.
Anne Blankson-Hemans receives a variety of reactions to her work.
When people look at my work, you know, they tell me that they feel like they've never been there, but they can imagine what it's like. And that's because of the energy and the vibrancy. They have a perceived view as to what's African. They see these masks, they see a lot of abstract. When I paint even in London, that I tend to put a lot of that energy back into it, you know, I put the colour into it. So there's something that's, I think, almost inherent in me that I bring out onto the canvas when I paint. I don't think that living in London has changed the way I paint. I think if anything, I have put the way I paint into London.